In this week's video lectures, we looked at a variety of things, including Picasso's work as well as a variety of other artists. And while we briefly touched on Picasso's use of African traditional masks, which was a different art form within the continent that was used for different cultural and traditional symbolism, I will not be touching on that for my weekly reflection this week, but instead I'll be focusing on monochromatic art, and this was inspired by the Blue Period of Picasso. A lot of the work Picasso did during the Blue Period was almost solely painted in the color of blue with black outlines here and there. However, this sparked my thought and interest in monochromatic art, and there are a few that exist. For example, we have Yves Klein, who was a French artist and became famous for creating his own color, which is known as Klein Blue or International Klein Blue. And essentially, he would create these all blue canvases, and he would argue that color was enough to be able to convey emotion and to transcend physical form. For him, the use of the sole color of blue without any variation in tone or texture or even any color grading, to him this was a boundless use of color, and the blue was able to symbolize an infinity. It could be the sky, the ocean, or whatever the viewer chooses to see in it. So in his work, he wanted to highlight and focus the use of color, and he wanted people to experience color solely on its own without the quote-unquote distraction of recognizable shapes or figures. Additionally, we can see monochromatic art in East Asian culture, more specifically in China and in some parts of Japan, and this was a form of inkwash painting, and it had been used and existed for many years and centuries. And essentially, these works were the use of black ink on white paper, where they would depict various landscapes, animals, and abstract scenes as well. And with this type of monochromatic art, it's interesting to see how a single brushstroke or a blurb of the same color is able to suggest different subjects, for example, a mountain or trees like we see here. And so every brushstroke and everything that they did with this art was intentional. Again, I think this is also because you're using solely one color. But here we're able to see different techniques in order to yield a more representative and realistic portrait of their subjects as well. Next, looking at Ad Reinhardt. He was an American abstract artist, and he contributed to minimalism in the US, and he did this by using monochromatic art and pushing it to its extremes, essentially in creating these all black canvases and these black paintings, which at first glance looks like just solid black squares on a canvas, but when you look a little closer, you can notice the different variations in tone and texture here and there, which is particularly interesting, and I think it's innovative and pushes the idea of monochromatic art or art in general and the creation of art from the most simplest of things, such as an all-black canvas. And in that same regard, I feel like with all monochromatic art, and which is why I chose to speak on it for my weekly reflection this week, I feel like it requires a higher skill set, as creating monochromatic art is more complex and you no longer have access to various colors or are limited to certain techniques in order to create an image or even to create art, abstract art at that. So I feel like artists who work in the field of monochromatic art really are expanding their ideas and the ideas of art as a whole in terms of what they're able to create with one thing.